I'm recording this from Santa Marta in Colombia after 4 spectacular days of Carnival in Barranquilla. And somewhere between the last night of Carnival and checking into this hotel, I made the most spectacular plans for the week. Right from my hotel room, totally inspired by the view of the Caribbean Sea, I would go to the gym every single morning, eat well, catch up on my work emails, research for my upcoming newsletters, batch all my podcast episodes. You get the joke. Because the party is over and I finally have a nice, quiet room, really good Wi-Fi connection, big, bright room. So obviously, this was going to be the week I get on top of everything. You know how this ends, right? I've done maybe 20% of that list and I'm not really sure what happened to the rest, the other 80%. So why am I telling you this? Because you probably do the same thing, just with a different scenery. You feel calm, rested, optimistic, and you make plans from that place. But then real life shows up. And the person who actually has to execute those plans is tired, stressed, and one minor inconvenience away from a total meltdown. I've started calling these two people Sunday you and Wednesday you. And today I want to talk about why Sunday you cannot be trusted. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Noemi, former queen of bad habits and corporate go-getter turned well-being coach and personal growth junkie. And in a world full of overwhelming wellness advice, we're here to cut through the noise. This is your space to master healthy habits, transform your mindset, own your well-being, and design a life you love on your terms. We're ditching the highlight reels and embracing the whole messy, imperfect journey towards becoming our absolute best selves. You're the author of your own story. So are you ready to write the next chapter? Let's go, and welcome to Unwritten Potential. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Unwritten Potential with me, Noemi. I am so glad that you're here. As you heard, I'm in Colombia post-Carnival, and this week has been a masterclass in the gap between planning and reality. So let's get into it. And you probably know Sunday you, right? That's the version of you that meal preps in magic containers and sets 6 a.m. alarms with genuine optimism. Sunday you goes to bed at 10 p.m. because they listen to their bodies. Sunday you is full of energy and enthusiasm and has a great morning routine that involves sunlight and gratitude and probably a smoothie with something green in it. Sunday you is, and I say this with love, totally made up. The real you is probably more like a Wednesday you. Wednesday you is the one actually listening to this right now. Wednesday you ordered Uber Eats again last night. Wednesday you has 1,000 unread messages they're pretending do not exist. Wednesday you has a gym bag that's been packed since Monday but hasn't left the floor. Wednesday you says, I'll just have one and didn't. Or said, I'll just go tomorrow and will not. And maybe listening to this podcast while checking the phones at the same time. Wednesday you has a quiet but persistent sense that everyone else is somehow managing this whole being a functional adult thing better than them. And here's where it gets interesting, because there's actual research on this. A behavioral economist called George Lowenstein studied something called the hot-cold empathy gap. And the finding is almost comically simple. When you're in a calm, rested state, you're genuinely incapable of predicting how you will behave when you're stressed, tired, or emotionally spent. Not bad at predicting, incapable of predicting how you will behave when you're in that stressed, drained mental space. Your brain literally does not have access to that information, which means every plan you've ever made from a place of calm was written by someone who has absolutely no idea why your actual life feels like when things get hard. Sunday you is Delulu and they cannot be trusted. Or maybe your Sundays aren't even the optimistic kind. Maybe yours come with the Sunday Scaries instead. I hate that term, but anyway. Because Sunday you isn't just making plans out of hope. They're making plans to survive. They're thinking, if I can just get through this week. And when Wednesday you inevitably cannot keep up with that, it doesn't just feel like a skipped gym session. It feels like proof that you can't even hold yourself together. But it's not proof of anything, my friend, except that you were designing your life for the wrong person. The problem is that Sunday you keeps writing checks that Wednesday you cannot cash. And Wednesday you is already dealing with quite a lot, actually. They're tired, they're carrying a full workload, plus probably everyone else's emotions, plus that thing that they said in a meeting 3 weeks ago that they're still randomly cringing about when they wake up with a stress headache at 4 a.m. in the morning. Wednesday you does not need more ambitious plans. Wednesday you needs a plan that was actually designed for them. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Noemi, if I lower the bar, I'll just do nothing. I thought that for years too, while nothing changed, because the bar was so impossibly high that I couldn't even start, not even begin. So I would just lie under it all, scrolling my phone and feeling guilty about not clearing anything. Here's what actually happened when I made things smaller. I did them. I know, groundbreaking. Not because I suddenly found this magic discipline. If you've been following this podcast for a while, you know how I feel about discipline. It's totally overrated. But because the gap between this is where I am and this is what I need to do went from huge and therefore super daunting to boring. And boring, as it turns out, is the whole secret. Nobody's making a podcast about, hey, this person went on a 10-minute walk instead of totally skipping the gym. But it works. And 6 months later, you look up and you realize you've changed more from the tiny, boring stuff that you ever did from Sunday You's magnificent plans. All right, so here's your experiment for this week. And yes, this one's a bit confronting, so you've been warned. Think about one thing that keeps not happening. The thing you keep pushing on the list and keep not doing. Got it? Now be honest with yourself. Is that a Sunday you plan or Wednesday you plan? Because if it only works on a day where you've had enough sleep, nothing stressful happened, and you somehow have unlimited energy and willpower, that's not a plan. That's fan fiction. Make it small. I will walk for 15 minutes. I will cook one meal this week. I will go to bed before midnight twice. I will answer that one email I have been avoiding. Make it small. Not because you're not capable of more. You are. But because Wednesday you deserves a plan they can actually follow even on their worst day. And a thing that actually happens would always be a beautiful thing, huge thing, grandiose thing that was supposed to happen, but didn't. You cannot build from guilt, but you can definitely build from small. Here's the bottom line. Last week, I talked about the voice that tears you apart when habits break. This week, I want you to consider that maybe those plans were designed by someone who doesn't have to live your actual week. They were the plans for Sunday you. And Sunday you doesn't live here. Wednesday you does. And Wednesday you definitely deserves better. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And if you're not subscribed yet, head to unwrittenpotential.com for the newsletter and the podcast, which you will receive directly in your inbox. Take care of yourself, sending much, much love from beautiful Colombia, and I will see you next week. Bye.